402 runs scored in about 80 overs. And the highlight of which, of course, Crawley's 189 from 182 balls. He hit over 100 runs between lunch and tea, in which England scored 178 runs for the loss of 1 wicket in 25 overs. Wonderful clean hitting, really rapid running between the wickets too, a feature of that partnership between Root and Crawley, which is worth 206. So, various guests will be coming and going during the course of the next half hour. Let's start with Michael Vaughan, Glenn McGrath. Well, Michael, I think we knew from what Stokes had said before the game, with an eye on the weather, that they were going to have to come out and press on a bit, and they've delivered. Yeah, they have. I mean, I think in Zak Crawley, they have a player that's so dangerous. He's got in on a few occasions throughout the series. That 61, the first innings of the series, he was well set there. It's just the natural way that he strikes a cricket ball makes it very, very difficult for the bowlers to keep him quiet. He's obviously very strong on the drive. He's got the pull shot. He's got the flick through the onside. He takes risks. He had a bit of fortune early in his innings. He played a couple of big drives that he probably didn't need to, but that's the way that he played. And I think that innings today was the faith that he's been showed by the management for a long period of time. He's played a lot of test match cricket.
Not just this management either, by the way. I mean, you've got to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he averages 28 in test match cricket, and you could argue that he's one of the lucky England players over the last few years to get so many tests. But England play a certain brand which completely suits Zak Crawley. With Ben and Baz, they pick him at the top of the order to create momentum, and they've picked him and consistently for today, that they've always felt that he could have a couple of innings in the series that could make a massive difference in a match. And that innings today has put England well on the front foot to levelling the series with 1 to play. It was an innings, I think, that we'll be talking about for a long period of time, particularly if England go on to win this Ashes. I think a lot of the Ashes will be talked about and all the moments that we've seen. But I think those that have been here today and those that have seen that innings today, I think it'll be one that we speak about for a long period of time.
And he just really had the perfect foil, didn't he, with Root, who looked so determined when he came out. I mean, Root can sometimes look a bit smiley and as he comes out, but there was none of that today.
No, it's funny. I mean, they've scored at 5.33, and yet I don't think they played too many risky shots. I mean, that sounds bizarre. Joe Root just played.
Root ramped to his 50, which must be the first Yorkshire batsman to do that in Test cricket.
Yeah, but that for Joe Root with no fielder down at third is not a risk.
No.
He's played it so consistently well. Zak Crawley, he plays the big drives, and obviously he does take risks. But you look at that last partnership. That was Bazball with brains. Ben Stokes and Harry Brook, they realised the situation. The last half an hour, you don't want to give Australia a couple of wickets late in the day, so they just played. I've been staggered by Australia's tactics. I've been absolutely staggered. They had Mitchell Marsh bowling to Ben Stokes with mid-on on the boundary and mid-off on the boundary. He'd not hit him over the top once. The last over, they've got all the field spread. This isn't an Australia kind of mentality that we've seen for many generations. We saw it on the first day at Edgbaston, where we were watching and thinking, wait a minute, what are the Aussies doing there? They spooked by Bazball, and then they win at Edgbaston. They got away with it. They then go to Lords and win, but they look like a team that they're trying to hold on to what they've got, and that is a very dangerous mentality, because if you just hold in for what you've got, and that's that 2 victories in the first 2 games. This England side just play with this careless approach that they don't care about losing, and it's really hard to play against. That this mentality just keeps coming at you, and it keeps throwing this aggressive kind of style at you. And this Aussie team, at the minute, they look like they're just hanging on, and a hang-on mentality against a side that continuously goes at you, I don't think it's going to work.
I mean, it shows how much they're missing Lyon, and in 70 overs, they used 7 bowlers today. Now that's quite a high turnover, isn't it?
Well, I don't know the exact figures of Pat Cummins, who's world class. He's a world class performer, but over the course of the last,
he's gone for 6 and over.
Yeah, but I think his last 30 overs, he's gone for plenty and got 1 wicket. I've never seen Pat Cummins, be knocked around both sides of the wicket. I've never seen Pat Cummins with so many fielders on the boundary. He's still bowling pretty quickly, but he's not bowling the consistent lengths and lines. And the tactics what they went to in the afternoon was purely because Zak Crawley just nullified anything that he threw at them. And, they went to wide of the off stump to Mitchell Starc, who was getting a bit of tail. They went to the bouncer tactic. This pitch, as we saw with Joe Root's dismissal, that one that kind of grubbed along the floor, he's just hit the top of off stump. You know, when they started to hit the top of off stump consistently, it was a pitch where England were playing nicely, but they looked at the most threatening when that delivery was being bowled consistently. And I think England's bowlers will look at that. I spoke about the cracks this morning, and they're certainly going to play a part. We saw Ben Stokes go out there and the odd ball bounced.
Yes.
You know, the odd ball kept low, the ball that kept low to get Zach Crawley. So I think there is a little bit of uneven bounce that we'll see more of. England are in a great position, and it's been another Ashes day's play, and I don't remember one throughout this series where we've kind of been bored. It's royally entertaining cricket, fantastic for everyone watching. But Australia, they look like they're on the ropes.
Yeah, you know what it's like to captain in the Ashes, and Pat Cummins has led Australia, and this is within the space of less than 2 months, to the World Test Championship final, and now 4 Ashes Test matches as the leading fast bowler and captain. I mean, it's not surprising if he's a bit jaded or just a bit off the pace.
Yeah, I just wonder, and I don't know, I'm just guessing really, the incident of Johnny Bairstow at Lords, he's not been the same since. And I just wonder, he's such a great guy. His career has never been blemished by anything. And I just wonder whether that's had a bit of an effect on him. That there was suddenly lots of criticism about what he did, and I just wonder whether he kind of looks back at that, and he said he'd do it again, and I'm not too sure if he would or he wouldn't, but since that incident, I've seen a different Pat Cummins. He's not had the same oomph with the ball in hand. England have played him nicely and they've played some good strokes against him, but sometimes just little moments like, and they're big moments, can affect you as an individual and as a person. Tactically, I think he's been off. I thought he was off on that last day at Headingley when Chris Woakes went down, and also Harry Brook. Australia didn't go to the bouncer theory to Harry Brook soon enough. They didn't bowl bouncers to Chris Woakes. They allowed him to get to 20 odd just driving the ball. So tactically, I just think he hasn't quite been switched on. That can happen in a long series, particularly when you're so close to doing something very, very special. The nearer you get to something that's really big and special and historic, and it can create your legacy, the harder it becomes. And maybe Australia 2-0 up, and they've just tried to play safe cricket, just grab another win. That didn't come at Leeds, and here for 2 days, you look back to that 317, and we all thought that was par. That was a good score. Well, England have pretty much ripped that 317 of what looked like par and said there's no way that 317 is a par score on that surface.
I know you've got to go to telly in a minute. We'll get Glenn in a second. But how much do you think that root ball might sort of change England's tactics a bit? Because it was a stinker.
It was.
I mean, is that going to think that we might have to get a few more in this innings that perhaps we might otherwise have thought we were going to have to get?
I think England, we're clearly going to get some rain, but there's so much time left in the game, and England are so far ahead of the game, they don't need to overthink the game. Just play in the morning, score as quickly as you can. That's what they do. If they get out, that's fine. But be aggressive. If they can get to 200 in front, fantastic. And we've all seen Test match cricket for many generations. When you see balls keep low on day 2, you'll see a few more over the course of the next few days. You don't suddenly see a pitch get better and better. It generally gets worse and worse. And the teams that are on top generally get more of those balls that, when they bowl, they keep low and they start hitting the pads and the stumps. So England will have earned the right. If they get to that position of being 150, 200 runs in front, and they get 1 or 2 balls that keep low early, they've earned the right because they've played good.
We'll be talking to Zach Crawley shortly, doing his round of interviews at the moment. Come on, Glenn, how do you reflect on that? We've sort of been joshing behind the scenes a bit about Bazball over the last month or so, haven't we? Well, you've kind of seen what it is today. What do you make of it?
Well, this is sort of what I expected Bazball could be, and the potential of what Bazball is. And the start of today, I think everyone was in the same boat. They said today is crunch day. It's going to be something special. We're going to see. I said there was going to be one of 2 things happen. One, England will be score 400, or they get bowled out for 150. I tried to make out my gut feel was 150 England bowled out, but clearly wrong there. But I think everyone was right. They knew England had to fire today. They had to come out. They had to play their shots. And you look at Zach Crawley, I think he's such a good-looking player. Just the way he bats, and just he's tall. The way he hits through the line. He's the type of batsman you could enjoy watching.
Did he surprise you?
No, I think he's always had that potential. That what I've seen in this series so far, he's had that potential. Sometimes those players just need a little bit of luck in the Test series so far, he's edged them. You know, he's got out in certain ways, playing shots. Today he played and missed those, and then once he got in, he just looked so good. The Australians didn't know where to bowl to him because he can score both sides of the wicket. You know, he can walk across and hit you on the leg side. He can stay offside and hit there. He hits down the ground so well. Has no problem with the short ball because he is so tall and there wasn't much pace in the pitch. So, you know, I think this is why he's in the team. This is the potential of Zach Crawley. And, yeah, as being an Australian and sort of wanting Australians to do well, I actually enjoyed watching him bat because he's just one of those batsmen that you don't mind paying money to come and watch.
Yeah. Do you think Pat Cummins looks a bit jaded? I mean, he's out first ball today. Yeah. That can happen to anybody, but it was a slightly tired-looking shot. I don't know. You want perhaps out of focus where you just sliced a catch first ball of the day to point. Those two catches. I mean, one. I don't think he saw the first one. I think he got lost somewhere in the hotel. Yeah. The second one, though, totally catchable. There was some overthrows here. Yeah. A lot going on around the field. A lot of ball chasing going on. I mean, it's been a tough run for him so far.
Yeah. Well, this is his first real big test, isn't it, as captain? And when I've always said, fast bowlers as a captain, it's not easy. Because when do you switch off? As a fast bowler, you bowl, you've got to focus 100% on your bowling, but then you can sort of get down a fine leg and sort of switch off a bit and sort of get recharge the brain and sort of feel good. But as captain, you can't do that. So maybe we're seeing the impact of him being captain, fifth test in a short space of time and just being switched on, and it has an impact.
Right, I'm just looking down to my left here, and talk of switching on, I think Zach Crawley's switched on. He's certainly switched on with the bat today. Hello, Zach.
Hello.
We're right up here at the top, I'm afraid, so we can't see you, but I'll give you a little wave through the glass. But wow, what an innings that was.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, it was nice to get scored today, and we're in a really good position as a team, so that's great.
Yeah, but come on, that was special, wasn't it?
I rode my luck at times. I played some really good parts in the innings, and then there was other parts where I was a bit streaky, but no, I was happy with how I played and all, obviously, and it was a special day.
Yeah. What made the difference? I mean, you'll have known that people have pointed fingers during lean patches, and I'm sure you've been frustrated yourself in the past at not turning starts into runs. But what really made the difference for you today, do you think?
I just keep back in my game. I've where I just keep trying to play the way I play, and that's the only way that's going to work for me. And I suppose I've stuck to that. And at times I've gone away from that with a couple of low scores, but this series I've stuck with it, and I felt like there was a score coming. I felt like I was in good nick, and today, like I said, I rode my luck and played well, and thankfully the score came.
Yeah, it wasn't that much luck though, was it? I mean, there were some handsome shots in there, Zach. You'll be watching the highlights later, I'm sure.
No, absolutely. I was very pleased with how I played, but it's a special day.
Yeah. Anyone in particular? I mean, the six to taking into the lead was that I don't know, sort of emphasised the way you had played and the way that England had played throughout the day, I think.
Yeah, I hadn't hit 6 for 3 years, I think. So
well, that was my next question.
Yeah, I usually like to hit the ball on the ground, but it was a nice wind that way. So a couple of those were nice, and I enjoyed there was a straight drive off Pat Cummins, which might have been my favourite. That was, but yeah, no, I was thankful. There was a few nice shots in there today.
There certainly were. I mean, will it change the way that you play from now on? I mean, will you start more circumspectly, knowing that you've got all these shots in the bag for later, or do you simply carry on playing the way that you have been?
No, I think I carry on. I think that's what I've done well this series. I just stick to what I know, and I've been asked, by the boss, by the coach and the captains, make an impact at the top, and I've tried to do that, and I'll keep trying to do that. I think I play my best when I put the bowlers under a bit more pressure and don't let them settle on me. I think if I let them bowl at me for too long, I think they'll probably get me out. So I like this way that I play at the moment, where I just try and put them under pressure, and hopefully I can get on top.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to you since you hit the first ball of the series for 4. I mean, was that almost premeditated or not? Because that was an impact.
Yeah, no, it was kind of in the back of my mind, but I wouldn't say it was fully premeditated, but I was certainly thinking if it was there, I was going to try and put it away and make a statement. And thankfully, in the middle of the bat, it was a good feeling.
Right. Where's this game going, Zach? I mean, England, they know the weather forecast. Saturday doesn't look good at all. And that's kind of what was motivating today, I suppose. So where are England, and how do you feel about the position, and how's it going to go tomorrow?
We're obviously in a very good position. I think obviously we'll try and bat once, seeing how we start in the morning. Obviously we've got 2 very good players in, and Johnny's still to come, and Wokesy and Woody. So if we can bat once, that would obviously be the plan. But we'll just see how we go tomorrow, and just try and get bigger lead as possible. And obviously with that weather around, it'd be nice to get a nice lead and like I say, bat once. But if we're not, we've got to chase something on Sunday, then that'll be fine as well. So we'll just keep trying to score quickly, I reckon, and see where that takes us.
Yeah. Did that delivery, that scuppered route, change mindsets at all? I mean, did that sort of emphasise the need to bat once?
I think, it's going to be nice bowling last, hopefully, like I said. So, I mean, that was obviously an unplayable delivery, and hopefully we get a few of those when we bowl. So, absolutely. I think the pitch is going to start playing a few more tricks. So, the bigger lead we can get puts us in obviously a better position.
Well, Zach, I know that nobody who was here today will forget that. It was an absolutely outstanding innings, and thank you for the entertainment you gave all of us. Even Australians like Glenn McGrath have said how much he enjoyed that. Thank you, well played.
I appreciate that, thank you.
There we go. Zach Crawley, talk about batting once then. So that lead, they might even possibly go beyond that. Victor's alongside us now, passing his usual sage judgment on proceedings. Does that take it beyond lunch then, do you think?
It could do. I think he's right to say that you've got to get... It's still, despite that one dismissal of route, it's still a pretty good pitch to bat on. You're going to need, I would have thought, to win the game, or to perhaps win by an innings, you're going to need a lead of 250 probably, and hope the pitch misbehaves, and there's a bit of that sort of pressure coming on the Aussies. It suddenly occurred to me, actually, that this weather forecast, which we've been talking about all game, might not have done us any harm if you're an England supporter, because I think it has got into the Aussie mindset, because nowadays, if you turn up to a test match, it's going to last 5 days, and you know the weather's good, you know there's going to be a result. So the draw is out of the question. The forecast brings the draw into the question. And I suspect, looking at how Australia went about some of their work today,
their selection,
and also, well, maybe their selection, although, and also the way they batted a bit last night. Not the fact that Stark was slow, but the rejection of singles that were when Stark was the lesser player. They didn't take runs there. It was almost let's use up time rather than get those runs. So I'm just developing the theory that the weather forecast has actually done as much harm to Australia as it does to England.
Well, a lot of the press conference for Pat Cummins before the game was about, what needs a draw and the weather's bad. And so you can see it. And I think the selection did kind of confirm that. You think of leaving the spinner out, 5 seamers, rain around, we don't need a spinner, we've got plenty of seam bowling to see us through.
I think it sort of played an impact, just the way, watching sort of the field settings, the way the Australia went about it, especially in that sort of session after tea. It's probably in the back of their mind, if we can lose 2 days, 2.5 days for rain or something like that, it's in the bag. We just got to get through and sort of use up as much time as possible. It's not my favourite way to play, but whether that's in their back of their mind. But in respects to selection, I don't know whether they put enough faith in Todd Murphy. I know he did well in India on really turning tracks. He's only a young fella and it's a big stage. But I think the other side of things was the fact that Mitchell Marsh got 100 and looked so good at Headingley. Got a couple of wickets, Zach Crawley in both innings. And they really like Cameron Green, and I think Cameron Green's potentially going to be a class all-rounder. He just has to get that confidence. So they went the easy option. Who do we drop? How about we just play them both?
And England actually did the same at Lords not so long ago. They didn't pick a specialist spinner. They picked Joe Root, and that was a very tight game, and I don't think it impacted on the result of Lords. So I'm not so sure about that either. I mean, obviously Lyon would have played. But Crawley was astonishing. But I like, you were asking him, you're going to change. He's not going to change, because I think he's one of those players, and there are a lot of modern players like this, and it makes sense. But if they are looking to attack the bowling, or they have an aggressive mindset, they get into better positions. Crawley is never going to be able to play a long defensive Jeffrey-style innings, because Jeffrey had the knack of getting in good positions when he was going to defend the ball. But a lot of modern players, they get into better positions when they are looking to attack. Doesn't mean they have to attack the ball, but when they're looking to attack the ball, they get into better positions.
Yep.
That's my theory.
No, I agree. You know, if I'm in the team with Zach Crawley, that's the way I want him to play.
Yeah.
I think today, hopefully, will give him a lot of confidence to know the way he plays is the right way to play. And it's like Adam Gilchrist. Do you want Gilly? Would you want him go out and block it? No, you've got to go out and play your shots back yourself.
And in this team, Travis Head, you don't want Travis Head to come out and sort of play a kind of one of Alan Border's gritty innings. You want Travis Head to play like he plays, because he's more likely to succeed.
Because he looks like he's going to get out when he plays.
Exactly.
Yeah. The fact is, Glenn, that Australia have got to pick themselves up tomorrow morning. They've got to come out, and it's a big session for them as far as this Ashes is concerned, isn't it? They've got to somehow stop England from scoring his runs too quickly, and they don't want to start batting too early.
Yeah, I think they couldn't wait till this day finished. You know, that middle session where they went for nearly 180 runs. They've been hit to all parts of the ground, and mentally that's probably pretty draining as well. You wonder where the next test wicket's coming from, just running in hard and you're getting nothing out of it. So I think physically and mentally they were drained from that middle session. They'll have to regroup tonight, recharge the batteries, and they've got to come out in the morning firing and to still be in this test match.
And it was very apparent the way Brooks and Stokes batted, that they were looking to play the long game. Brooks deserted Bazball. He's got a strike rate of about 30. Not to worry. But they were playing that we want to get a big first innings score. There was no frills, no extravagances in the last 40 minutes.
Right, thank you, you two. It's been a day of stats. I'm giving Andy Zoltzman a full 2 minutes.
Oh, wow, Agus.
To fill your boots.
Well, let's start with Crawley, 189 from 182 balls. Just his fourth century in 38 tests, and to highlight the faith the selectors have had in him before this summer. In 25 tests, he'd averaged just 22 with 650-plus scores, including 2 centuries, 26 off 46 at lunch, and then scored 106 off 82 balls in the session from lunch to tea. The 16th player to make England player to make 100 runs in a session of Test cricket, the 6th to do so against Australia, and only the 3rd to do so for England in the Ashes in the last 100 years, after 2 of the most famous innings played by England players in that time, Ian Botham at Headingley in 81 and Ben Stokes at Headingley in 2019. It's England's best individual score against Australia in this country since 1997, when Nasser Hussain made a double 100 at Edgbaston, and it's the best by an England opener excluding Alistair Cook since Marcus Trescothick made 193 late in 2005. The partnership with Root set a new record, Agus, 206 in 29.4 overs at 6.94 per over, the fastest ever partnership of 200 or more in terms of runs per over in the entire history of Test cricket.
All countries, all.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's also England's best partnership against Australia at home since Hussain and Graham Thorpe at Edgbaston in that same game in 1997. England reached 300 for 2 against Australia for the first time in a home test since 1985. Team you played in, of course, they did so well. I'm sure you made a massive contribution.
Yes.
They did it in three of the last 4 tests in that series. But England haven't had 300 on the board with only 2 wickets down against Australia at home. Since then, they reached 300 in 51.5 overs, 8 overs faster than either team has reached 300 in Ashes history.
Thanks, Andy. Well, let's hear from the Australia camp now, and their coach, Andrew McDonald, has been speaking with Alison Mitchell.
Andrew, tough day in the field for Australia, but where do you see the state of the match with this lead at the moment?
Yeah, an incredibly tough day, but full credit to England, the way that they played, in particular Crawley, an outstanding innings. Rode his luck there at periods, but put some real pressure on us in that middle session. We still feel like at any time you're in the games, Test match cricket, it's only day 2 and 60 odd behind. We'd like to think that we can, potentially knock over the last few wickets and then, get to work with the bat. And we probably left a few out there in the first innings.
Runs were plundered in that session between lunch and tea. What was the message? What were the discussions during the tea interval?
Yeah, I mean, we shifted plans a couple of times in the middle session, and we just consolidated our thinking at the break, and we come out probably in a more traditional way with hitting a bit more line and length, and probably a bit more of a conservative field, just to try to get a little bit of tempo back into the game on our side. And it was 7 and over during that middle session, and that's far too many. But as I said, that's full credit to the pressure that England put on us with the bat, and we had to find different ways of doing it. We got a little bit of control in that last session, so it's all about that starting up again tomorrow morning, making sure that we've got a bit of control and taking wickets at the same time.
You've gone into this match without a specialist spinner. Just explain the thinking behind that.
Yeah, we felt like, on this surface against this opponent that the spin wouldn't play a huge part in it, and we're yet to see that as well. I know Mo took a wicket in the first innings, but we'll never know what it would look like with a spinner today. We went with a different attack, and we've really got to focus on the bowlers that we've got there to use at our disposal.
There was one to Joe Root that kept very low. Do you see that as a one-off, or do you think the pitch could start to play up?
No, I think it will start to play up. It was pretty dry with a few cracks on day one, so that's probably indicative of potentially the way the game will go. A little less bounce, and we feel as though that stump to stump may come into it. But in saying that, we're a little bit behind at the moment to consider that and what it may look like to bowl on last. So we've got a bit of work to do before that.
And how does mentality change throughout a 5-match series like this, when you know that, in fact, a draw here will be enough to retain the Ashes?
Yeah, I don't think draws really factor in at the speed that these test matches have been played at. So that was never discussed coming in. It was what team can we pick to win the test match. And I know there's been a lot of talk of weather and conditions, and we thought we were going to get washed out in our preparation as well, and we've got 2 cracking days to prepare. So weather up here is unpredictable. So the draw and the weather wasn't a factor in our thinking.
Good luck for the rest of the match, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Ivan. Cheers.